Hello! What's going on, everybody? As you all know, I've done quite a few ranking videos recently based on World Cup teams or potential World Cup teams. I've gone over rankings for Europe and Asia. Now we're going to be doing South America countries that are still in the race or that have already qualified for Qatar this year. Now, these videos always tend to be quite a controversial topic. Obviously, I'm giving these thoughts very early on. We still have a long way to go for the World Cup, and I'm talking about teams that might not even make it to Qatar this year. As you can see in this tier maker list, I've only included teams that are still in the race to qualify. That means Paraguay and Venezuela will not be in this video because they're automatically eliminated from the race. Obviously, they're still going to be playing matches, but they're not making it. Also, keep in mind, these are very early thoughts. It isn't even necessarily a prediction video as we don't know the groups for Qatar yet. I'm recording this mid-February, so in about a month or so, we'll find out which of these teams do not make it to Qatar. Brazil and Argentina have already qualified for the World Cup. The teams that are still in the race to determine where they are placed are Ecuador, Uruguay, Peru, Chile, Colombia, and Bolivia. Now, Ecuador already ensured an intercontinental playoff run, but their position to automatically qualify from the 4 South American teams is still in contention. They'll at least get fit though, which is a good sign for them. 8th place Bolivia, on the other hand, are definitely not going to be in the top 4 teams. They could potentially grab 5th. It's going to be very hard for them though, and it obviously depends on the other results coming their way. The race for the South American qualifiers is very much on though. In the comments below, along with your thoughts on my tier maker list, let me know which of these teams you think will end up qualifying for Qatar. I'll definitely make some kind of prediction video once we get closer to the international break. And one more thing before we start, no disrespect to any of these teams if I do you dirty. It's really the most basic thoughts very early on. Also, these opinions are subject to change. Alright, enough with the intro. Let's get into it. Starting off with Argentina. Like I said, this team already qualified for the World Cup, and they did it in style. Both Argentina and Brazil so far have no losses in the South America World Cup qualifiers, but the talks of how Argentina will do in Qatar are definitely up for debate, as they had some very disappointing moments in Russia, drawing with Iceland in their first match in the group stage, then losing to Croatia 3-0, but then grabbing a massive win against Nigeria, obviously. To be fair to them, put off a very decent fight against the World Cup winners, France. Unfortunately, they had to play them that early on. But since Russia, Argentina definitely look like they've improved. They obviously just won Copa America. And the fact that they beat Brazil at the very end is obviously massive. You've got to give this side credit as they've massively improved recently. Definitely looking like a top side yet again. Obviously, they have Messi, one of the greatest players of all time. Lots of criticism on this guy though. As for his standards, he hasn't been delivering enough. But I truly think he's just going through a rough patch, and he still has a brilliant side to back him up. Obviously, a huge change to the squad is that there is no longer Higuain or Aguero supporting him in the attack. We've now got Martinez, but honestly, he's been a terrific replacement. You've also got Di Maria doing so much damage for Argentina recently, and overall throughout his career. If Messi, Martinez, and Di Maria are the designated front 3, they can surely cause a lot of damage. One thing I used to criticize Argentina for a lot in the past was their shaky defense, but now it looks like they've massively improved. They're barely conceding now, and like I said, no losses. Besides conceding 1 goal to Chile last month, the last time they conceded before that was against Venezuela in September. Also forgot to mention earlier in the squad, Martinez in goal is such an upgrade. He plays with so much passion for the Argentinian team. If he's fit for the World Cup, I think they're in safe hands. Once they come up against other teams around the world, I don't think it's going to be as easy for them, but I'm still banking that they could potentially do a lot more damage than they did in Russia. In 2018, they were just an absolute mess. Now it's their time to shine again. Obviously, in 2014, they made it all the way to the final and then got heartbroken by Germany. We obviously don't know Argentina's group yet, but I could see this side having a similar run to what they did in Brazil. I could see them getting a few very solid results and then having a few matches where they barely scrape through and make it decently far. I definitely think a lot of people are going to disagree with me on my opinion on how far Argentina can go. But like I said, this isn't an overall prediction, but it's just potentially the best I think they can do in the World Cup. And I'm going to go all out and say they have the potential to make it to the final. Even though they're missing a few stars from the past, like I mentioned earlier, the squad just looks more organized and stronger. Scaloni is obviously also such an upgrade from Sampaoli. Yeah, this might be a generous pick, but I think Argentina deserve a lot of praise right now. Let's move on to the next country, Bolivia. Now, like I mentioned, Bolivia are in a pretty rough spot in the World Cup qualifiers. the chances for them to qualify are very, very low. Despite them taking it at times, they've had some very, very impressive results. One of their 4 very impressive wins in the World Cup qualifiers consisted of them beating Uruguay 3-0, along with having a red card. But still, even with these random moments of brilliance, looking at their record, how are they going to perform well against other teams all over the world if they have the second most losses in the World Cup qualifiers right now? If they make it to the World Cup somehow, I think they can maybe pull off 1 win, but at most that, and I think they'll crash out of the group stage. Prove me wrong, Bolivia. Always love to see the underdogs do well. Now for another giant in this continent, Brazil. What more do I have to say about this team? I already talked about how they have no losses in the World Cup qualifiers. More points than Argentina as well. Only 4, but still 2 less draws is pretty impressive. The squad is always phenomenal. I've never seen it necessarily bad on paper. The last time Brazil won the World Cup was exactly 2 decades ago. Since then, though, they always made it to the quarterfinals or further. In 2006, they lost to France 1-0 in the quarterfinals. In 2010, they lost to Netherlands in the quarterfinals. In 2014, at Brazil, yeah, we know what happened there. And then in 2018, they got knocked out in the quarterfinals 2-1 against Belgium. Obviously, some of the Brazilian veterans are aging, Thiago Silva being a prime example, but there's definitely still decent options, and Thiago Silva is still proving his worth. Vinicius Jr. has also picked up a lot of form this year. Neymar is already 30, but hey, this is his chance to do something in the World Cup. You've also got the 2 best goalkeepers arguably playing for the 2 best teams in the Premier League. I don't want to go way too in depth with the Brazilian squad because you can go for hours about them. Lots and lots of depth in this squad. Lots of talent to talk about upcoming, and I've already proven it over the years. The squad is obviously always changing, and it's very competitive to make it in the first place. Even though it's been a while since we've seen Brazil in the final, I'm not saying I could definitely see them making it to the final, but I gotta put them in the likes with Argentina that they definitely are a team that can make it all the way there this year. It could be a bumpy road for them, but I think it's fair to say that this is a side that has potential to make it to the final. The motivation could be high, especially for a lot of the forwards. The age Neymar is now, this could be his last chance to go all out with the skill he has. The expectations are always high for Brazil. That's why it was such an embarrassment when Germany beat them 7-1. Obviously, we'll see how they do, though. Let's move on to Chile. Chile are not in the most comfortable position, but they definitely still have a chance to make it to the World Cup. They're at 6th right now with 19 points. Peru is right in front of them with 21, so 2 points in front of them, but they really just have been an inconsistent side lately. Despite Alexis Sanchez not being at the level that he once was, he's still from time to time pulling through for the national team. Vidal's obviously still got it. Also, ever since Ben Brereton Diaz has changed his nationality, he's been doing all right for them as well. When you look at all the players as a whole, a lot of them have had phenomenal careers but are not at the par as they once were. Alexis Sanchez being a massive example. But yeah, with Chile's inconsistencies, if they somehow manage to bounce out of this, grab all wins while Peru, Uruguay, and Ecuador all potentially slipping, it obviously depends on their group, but if things go their way, I'm going to say the best they can do is the round of 16s. Maybe that's a bit generous. This side failed to qualify last time for the Russia World Cup, but in 2010 and 2014, they made it all the way to the round of 16. Like I said, maybe the squad isn't at its absolute peak, but if they're able to clinch through to the World Cup, I could see them being motivated to make it out of the group stage. I think it's going to be very difficult for them, though. I'm definitely on the fence about this one, but I'm going to leave them at round of 16s. Let me know your thoughts on Chile, obviously, in the comments below. But let's move on to Ecuador. Ecuador have been fantastic in the World Cup qualifiers, as we all know. 3rd place right now with 25 points. They're definitely on the right track. Maybe they could slip in the last international break, but at least they have qualified for the Intercontinental Playoffs. As impressive as Ecuador have been, however, one thing that worries me about the national team is that they do a lot of the time struggle away from home. When they play at home, they get brilliant results, but with the exception of beating Chile away in November, this side does not have the best away record. Will this iffy away record affect their performance in Qatar? To be honest, I still have faith in Ecuador. I feel like they might be able to still clinch the results. Maybe, just maybe, depending on their group, they could make it out. Definitely telling some underdog tale. But then, unfortunately, I see them crashing in the round of 16s. I want to be wrong on this, believe me. Make it to the quarters or the semis or even the final. But the best I see Ecuador doing is the round of 16s. I just think they'll possibly be paired up against a powerhouse and then be disappointed. But it would be incredible to see this side have a fantastic run in the World Cup. Now for Colombia. Now Colombia really are not in the best position right now. 7th place was 17 points. Disregarding their friendly against Honduras, Colombia have failed to score since September in the World Cup qualifiers. That's massive. And it's absolutely nuts because they actually look like a very threatening side. You obviously got the highly regarded Luis Diaz, who was just signed for Liverpool, a phenomenal player. Zapata on Atalanta. Then you got the likes of James Rodriguez, a massive contributor to the 2014 amazing run Colombia had in that World Cup, and not looking as motivated as he was back in the day. The defense is still proving themselves from time to time. I mean, some of their recent results did finish 0-0. That being said, the rest of Colombia's matches should be not easy, but they have an easier road compared to the other teams. Their last 2 matches are against Bolivia and Venezuela. Venezuela did get an impressive result recently, but this is a side that's already eliminated. Bolivia also not looking like Colombia is on paper. I think this is their chance to break that curse and get on the score sheet. Will that mean that they end up qualifying for the World Cup? I don't know, but we're pretending that they did for this video. And if they make it, get out of this rut that they're in. I think that they can potentially prove themselves and do better. I'm going to say their run halts at the round of 16s at most. I think they maybe can gain some momentum and form at the group stage. In the last World Cup in Russia, they made it to the round of 16s, losing to England on penalties. I know Colombia is looking very shaky right now, but this is under the assumption that they make it at the end. So with that being said, their form will probably improve by then, and they make it to the knockouts, but barely. Now for Peru. Peru are in a decent position right now in the World Cup qualifiers. They're in 5th, the intercontinental playoff spot, and they could still grab 4th or even 3rd. They did make it to the last World Cup as well. Unfortunately, knocked out in the group stage, but still, they were in a group with France and Denmark. The only team they managed to beat was Australia. That being said, I feel like they'll have a very tough group yet again. The national team doesn't have a lot of standout players. The more well-known's also aging, but they still play like an absolute unit. I mean, we've been seeing it recently. They got a massive win against Colombia. And yeah, as of now, I think they're definitely in very solid form. But I hate to say it, I don't see Peru making it past the group stage. I think it's going to be very similar to how it was in Russia, and they'll be paired up in a very good group and possibly getting knocked out. Love to see them prove me wrong. Love to see them grab some upsets, but that's what I'm going with. Obviously, we don't know their group yet, and this could be subject to change. I'm definitely going to keep my eye on the final match day for the South America qualifiers, but I see Peru tanking it once again. Now for Uruguay. This side has been picking up the form recently, but they were also very shaky themselves. They are in a decent position right now, obviously in 4th place, but the results earlier in the qualifiers were definitely questionable. Now they're picking up the pace though. I have faith in this side. They went pretty decently far in the World Cup. I mean, they lost to France in the quarterfinals. You gotta give this side some props. They have an amazing attack still with Suarez and Cavani. Yes, they're aging, but they're still ballers. Despite Oscar Tabarez coaching this side for so long, he has recently lost the job. Now they've got Diego Alonso. I definitely think it depends on their road and their group, but I think it's gonna be a similar affair to how it was in Russia. Just like my explanation for Peru, I think history will repeat itself and they will make it as far as they did in Russia. Quarterfinals for me. There's still so much talent in this squad, even besides that amazing attack. Solid defense, solid midfield. Quarterfinals, I think, is the right choice. So yeah, here is my final list, guys. As you can see, I didn't put a single team in the semifinals, but 2 teams potentially making it to the final, 1 quarterfinal, 3 round of 16s, and 2 group stage teams. Let me know if you want to see Africa or CONCACAF next. Definitely going to be making a video on one of those. Again, if you have any disagreements with me, just let me know in the comments below. No hates any of the teams. Definitely excited for the final international break. I'm sure you all are as well. But yeah, thank you all for making it to the end. Hit that like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all very, very soon. Take care. Lá com noite.